Flowers and rainbows and sun. Oh my. When I think of summer, the first thing that pops into my head after my pool is flowers. When I think of flowers, the first thing that pops into my head is summer. A perfect fit. And today we celebrate the annual flower communion on the summer solstice. Predestiny? As we all know, the summer solstice occurs when the sun is at its peak of power. There are more hours of daylight than darkness today. In ancient times, this was important because it meant that the days would start getting shorter and the growing season would be winding down. Often you hear of festivals occurring around June 24th or St. John's Day. Most people didn't have calendars and their lives revolved around the seasons, both natural and man-made. And the St. John refers to St. John the Baptist. According to the Bible, John was born 6 months before Jesus. He was a rugged man who was often depicted as wearing animal skins. His was the voice from the wilderness that is mentioned in the Old Testament to herald the birth of the Messiah. But the common folk already had a holiday at this time, the solstice. The term Litha, as we call it today, is a recent addition to the neo-pagan lexicon. There was much celebrating and merrymaking. Cities were few and towns and villages were far apart, totally surrounded by forest. According to custom, the green man, or the oak king, was the star of the show. He is descended from the ancient god Pan, with horns and cloven hooves. Sometimes on old crude monuments, St. John is seen with horns, and even occasionally the body of a satyr. Again, it is believed that it was easy for the peoples of the old religions to accept the new Christian faith and holidays, if it was presented in a way that they could understand. And St. John, being a man of the wilderness, and the green man of the forest, do bear a striking resemblance. Both these men lived in a more verdant setting. Both had very close ties to the earth, and the earth is at its peak growing season now. The days are longer, the sun is hotter, and the flowers are blooming all over the place. And according to biologists, it was flowers that changed the earth. Before the arrival of angiosperms, flowers, dinosaurs ruled an earth filled with ferns. And then the flowers arrived and changed everything. They could produce seeds. These seeds were self-contained growing units with built-in nutrients that could sustain the plant until it was firmly rooted. These seeds also provided energy that in turn helped to raise the body temperature of the cold-blooded creatures. If it weren't for seeds, perhaps the mammals would not have developed. So flowers changed the prehistoric world by providing food for the newly emerging mammals. These seeds, in turn, provided other foods. When they grew and ripened, they gave fruit and vegetables. When humanity learned how to harness the power of growing things on demand, we went from a hunter-gatherer to an agrarian culture, and then tribes or clans could remain in one place and grow their own food instead of just looking for it. Thus, the birth of villages and towns, and eventually cities and nations. Now, in our highly developed world, we view flowers differently. Instead of being a source of food, they are mostly seen as extraneous. Nice to look at, but not really useful. And some flowers are considered a nuisance. Take the dandelion. Have you ever really considered the life cycle of this much maligned plant? It starts out as a piece of fluff carried on the wind. It lands and produces a long root reaching down deep into the earth to gather nutrients and moisture. Then a beautiful yellow flower appears. When you get a chance, really look at that flower. It is a dome of sunshine. After it is pollinated, the flower closes up and then a miracle occurs. When it reopens, it is transformed into a globe of tiny little seeds. These seeds are so perfectly shaped to perform its new function, to catch the wind, and hopefully lands on fertile ground to start the cycle all over again. It's beautiful, really. Unless, of course, it lands on your lawn. There is a language to flowers, too. Like red roses mean I love you, yellow means friendship, and orange roses mean desire. There are meanings behind almost every flower. When Warren and I renewed our marriage vows, instead of words, we used flowers and their symbolic meanings to express what is often difficult to put into words. I've always liked to garden, but with my job 6 days a week, it's hard for me to get serious about a garden. But there's something special about getting your hands into the earth and watching things grow. So I've planted a small garden where I work, with all easy-to-grow plants. The sunflowers did create a problem because they grew too tall and blocked the cameras that looked out into the parking lot to monitor the cars. Flowers also serve very well to aid Unitarianism. This is an excerpt from Gary Kowalski's sermon called Flower Power. Norbert Kapik was a Unitarian minister who lived in the last century in the city of Prague. His home and his church were overrun by German soldiers in the years of World War II. He gave his life defying their cruel occupation. But before he died, he influenced thousands of people with the beauty of his words and ideals, including the flower ceremony that he originated, symbolizing the light and color and fragrances of many creeds, many cultures, and many races joining together in a bright, living bouquet. The Nazis are now gone, but the flower ceremony continues to be celebrated in this congregation and hundreds of others around the world, a testament to the power of love to withstand hate and to the vision of a tolerant faith which sweeps the world not by persecution or threats of violence, but by drawing people to its principles with the sweet scent of peace and freedom. So the flowers we share this morning bring us the assurance that warmth and kindness can pierce through frost of cruelty and indifference, that mercy and decency will blossom, that goodness has deep roots and will prevail. What seems most fragile and perishable is most persistent and enduring. Sisterhood and brotherhood, justice and charity will ultimately prevail. Kapik saw flowers as a symbol of diversity and unity. I think flowers are also a symbol of promise. As they sprout and mature and burst into flower, they are showing the cycles of life. The seeds equal birth, the tender shoot is youth, the bloom is maturity, the fruit or seed pod is aging, and then the flower dies. But it has left behind a legacy, a promise of continuity in the seeds that it has produced and scattered. Another thing associated with summer is rainbows. According to legend, rainbows are a symbol of God's promise to never flood the earth again. It's interesting to note that almost all ancient cultures have a story of the flood. Could this story be a memory of a time when the weather patterns changed and the polar ice caps melted a bit and coastal areas did flood? Well, that's my personal take on that story. Rainbows are beautiful, and unless you're an optical meteorologist, they're a bit mysterious. Why do they happen? Well, we all know it's the sunlight shining through the rain and producing a prism in the sky. But why don't they happen all the time? Conditions have to be just right. The sun must be low on the horizon. That's why there's never any rainbow at noon. I know I will never find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because as you move, so does the rainbow. But the pot of gold may be just seeing those colors in a perfect arch or a part of an arch shining above us in the sky. As you can tell by the title of this talk, Flowers and Rainbows in Sun, oh my, I guess you can see that I like the old classic movie The Wizard of Oz. It's one of my favorite movies, and to this day I'm still leery of flying monkeys. But Dorothy's wish to fly over the rainbow has always struck a chord with me. And when she does fly over the rainbow and lands in a place loaded with flowers of all colors and shapes and sizes, the fact that it is a land of really short people is close to my heart too. But rainbows are very colorful. I don't think there's a color in the rainbow that isn't reflected in flowers somewhere. All this color is just covering the earth in the summer. It truly is a gift to enjoy and appreciate. Even those little yellow dandelions. So rainbows are a symbol of promise too. They occur after a rain, which is good for the earth. The rain in turn helps the flowers. And the rainbow shines as the clouds depart and the sun glows in all its glory. The one thing that connects rainbows and flowers is the sun. Flowers need the sun along with good soil and water to grow. Have you ever watched a sunflower throughout the day? The bright yellow faces will follow the sun. I wanted to plant two side by side and paint pupils on them so they would look like eyes, but they grew too tall and I'm too short. Flowers can be grown in artificial conditions with sterile soil, sterile water, and electric lights. But to me, they seem pale in comparison to those that can sway in the wind and feel the heat of the sun and know the patter of raindrops on their petals. Rainbows rely on the sun for their very existence. There is something special about a thunderstorm, and then the clouds break up, and the sun shines and a rainbow forms, and the scent of flowers seems heavy in the air from all the moisture. To me, this is one of the best things about summer. The sun is pretty amazing, too. It gives us so much: light, heat, energy, and then there are those pesky solar storms that can interfere with radio reception. Almost all ancient cultures worship the sun or some aspect of it. From Stonehenge to the Spiral Rock in Chaka Canyon, the ancients had ways of defining the year by the sun's position in relation to the earth. We also use the sun to define our year. From Memorial Day to Labor Day, the unofficial summer, people seem a little more laid back. You no longer need an excuse to just sit and watch the grass or dandelions grow. It may seem that life slows down just a bit. Or that could be because there's more daylight so we can do more. Everything is more pleasant when the sun is shining. I like watching the sunrise on a summer day. It is a promise that no matter what is going wrong in your life at that time, the sun will always be there to provide light and heat and hope that a new day is here, a day full of promise and rebirth. And the first day of summer is a wonderful time to think about those promises of flowers and rainbows and sun. Oh my. If we could please stand for hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.